But first, yesterday over the long holiday weekend, a federal judge issued a ruling in the Donald Trump Mar-a-Lago raid case, agreeing to appoint what is called a special master to review all 11,000 documents that the FBI seized in the search, and pausing the DOJ's criminal investigation. It's led many to blast the judge, but here's the reality. Appointing a special master to consider which documents might be protected by attorney-client privilege, for example, really would not have been a big deal. In particular, if the Trump legal team had asked for it immediately. In fact, many legal experts believe it would have been the likely outcome. The real issue is how expansive the judge's ruling was and the timing of it. The court ruling that the former president might be able to prevent the FBI from accessing classified documents, based not just on attorney-client privilege, but based on what is called executive privilege, is tough to justify legally. And she also didn't need to stop the use of the documents in the investigation altogether. After all, they've been working on this for weeks. And if the potential damage to Donald Trump was so dire, why'd the judge need to wait 2 weeks since she first got the motion? And that was after the 2 weeks the Trump team had waited to even file its motion. But while using the documents for the criminal probe is on hold, she did allow the government to continue to assess the potential national security and intelligence implications. And so while I believe it is very tough to legally justify the ruling, if you listen to the left-leaning media, the Trump-appointed federal judge is a political hack. This is the worst decision in history. Trump gets away with it again and again, et cetera, et cetera.
Because she's biased and corrupt. Like, I don't know what to tell everybody anymore. Like, I've been saying this since he took office. When you allow Republicans to control the courts, you get nothing.
This really could open the door to months of litigation. And the precedent, as I said, is horrendous.
Judge Cannon just said, stop investigating Donald Trump. That, in my opinion, is judicial insanity.
And misconduct, potentially.
And misconduct, of course. The judge, Elie Mystal, is getting destroyed. Look, I'll criticize her in a minute, but I think she deserves some credit for stating that these are, quote, exceptional circumstances surrounding not just anyone but a former president. And while another judge might have pretended that this was just the law, she was applying it. Judge Cannon seemingly admitted she was applying a different standard because it was the former president. So is it so bad for the judge to give the former president the benefit of the doubt and then allow the investigation to continue after a break for the special master to review the documents? Is the timing that critical to the government? Now, a special master is just not that controversial. It's not going to make or break the DOJ's case. But if Donald Trump later complains about the investigation heating up, let's say he announces a run for president and claims, well, now they're only going after me because I'm a presidential candidate. Well, then I will join the critics in saying, you got the delay you requested. The reality is the judge is saying out loud what many judges would be thinking about, being, quote, mindful of the need to ensure at least the appearance of fairness and integrity under the extraordinary circumstances presented. Now, again, that isn't a defense of her legal reasoning. The judge herself says in her ruling, quote, there has not been a compelling showing of callous disregard for plaintiff's constitutional rights, plaintiff being Donald Trump. But the judge, in my view, did make some mistakes. The judge appeared to confuse the goal of the special master, which is to assess what's privileged, with former President Trump's desire to get some of his stuff back. That's not part of the investigation. Quote, the seized materials include medical documents, correspondence related to taxes, and accounting information. The government also has acknowledged that it seized some personal effects without evidentiary value, and by its own estimation, upwards of 500 pages of material potentially subject to attorney-client privilege. Thus, based on the volume and nature of the seized material, the court is satisfied that plaintiff has an interest and need for at least a portion of it. But you don't need a special master for him to get the stuff back. That's not part of the investigation. The attorney-client material has already been sorted through and will not be used. A specific DOJ team has already been doing its own review of what's privileged and then handing over only any documents it deems not covered by privilege over to criminal investigators, which by now have had a month to go over everything. The judge also expressed concern about the stigma a potentially wrongful indictment could impose, except that stigma would apply to any defendant who's wrongfully indicted. And Judge Cannon indicated that she's concerned about the DOJ leaking sensitive information to the public. Quote, a future indictment based to any degree on property that ought to be returned would result in reputational harm of a decidedly different order of magnitude. Fair enough. The problem is a special master wouldn't prevent leaks. The FBI already has the documents. Nor does the special master decide whether there's an indictment. This is the point. It's a little late to be trying to prevent leaks when the government has had this in its possession for a month now. Now, finally, as to the government's argument that Trump doesn't personally own the seized documents because they are, by legal definition, the property of the federal government, the judge found that Trump at least can have this special master review for now. But again, that argument is almost certainly wrong because even the judge concedes that the language from the United States Supreme Court indicates it's the current president, not the former president, who is in, quote, the best position to assess the present and future needs of the executive branch for purposes of executive privilege. So to try and help sort all of this out, two different perspectives. Joining me now is former federal prosecutor David D. Villers, who was appointed by former President Trump, and Elie Mystal, justice correspondent for The Nation, who you may have just heard in that clip at the top of the show calling the judge biased and corrupt. Thank you both for coming on the show. Appreciate it. I'm going to speak to you both individually. So, David, let me start with you. What do you make big picture in terms of the judge's ruling here? How big a deal? What do you make of the ruling, et cetera?
I don't think it's a big deal. I think I just heard what you said, and I agree that the reasoning behind it probably isn't as sound as I think we would like to have heard. But I agree with you, too. Also, the fact that she actually comes out and says, hey, look, this is unprecedented. This is extraordinary. And I'm being probably more careful than I would otherwise have been. And I think that's refreshing in a lot of ways. But I also think this has much ado about nothing in that this, yes, has slowed down the investigation, but this is an investigation based on documents. The documents aren't going anywhere. It could slow down the investigation, but the investigation will continue once it's filtered through again. So look, there's two filter teams, right? You got the filter team that's has already looked through it, and then you have this next individual that will come in that will be agreed upon, hopefully, by both sides, both by DOJ and the Trump's team. And hopefully this will be somebody that will be trusted as well, and they'll go through it. But those documents aren't going anywhere. And they'll be scrutinized for time to come. Here
was my concern, right? You even read the facts as the judge laid it out. And it's clear she's kind of minimizing the facts here. She doesn't include details which are bad for Donald Trump. She sort of makes this out to be as if they were in this ongoing discussion about what happens next. And lo and behold, there's a subpoena. And then lo and behold, there ends up this search. And yet, that's not what we now know happened, considering that she was appointed in Trump's final hours as president. I would think for the exact same reason, she would almost bend over backwards to be seen as being fair and to not sort of being biased towards President Trump. And I think there was a way to issue the ruling, even that she did, without the language that made her seem like she was very sympathetic to President Trump's weakest arguments.
Right. As many judges, federal judges, have told me in the past, they enjoy the luxury of a lifetime appointment. And she does as well. No one can take it away from her. So, yeah, I agree. I would be a little bit more surprised with the wording of it. Not necessarily that she appointed, but the wording and reasoning of it, I agree. She didn't quite go the way I thought she would.
And again, the way to do this, right, would have been to say, okay, you want a special master to confirm the attorney-client documents? Okay, I'll give you that. But I'm not going to stop the investigation, and I'm not going to allow for looking into whether there's possible executive privilege here, which, again, it sounds sort of this arcane legal theory, but the idea that, you're supposed to be protecting private conversations that the president may have with his internal team. But there's no indication that a former president can invoke that and prevent the current president from accessing that information. And she almost seem to be suggesting that that could be a real legal argument.
I don't understand the executive privilege argument in this case. In fact, I'm trying to figure out what could possibly be subject to executive privilege in the documents themselves. You're talking about internal deliberations in the cabinet. And I don't understand how, unless there are written notes or something to that effect. So I don't understand that either. I do understand the privilege argument, though. And the reason is, yes, it's been going on for a while, and they perhaps have seen every single document, the investigative team. But as you're aware, they're never going to use privileged documents substantively in a case. But there's derivative use. They can find something privileged and find some other, get wind of another witness that may be able to help them out. And that's the issue.
All right, so let me bring in Elie Mystal. So, Elie, you've heard the conversation we're having. Neither Dave nor I are angry at the judge. I've explained why I think the judge got it wrong. You're mad. Why are you so mad?
Yeah, so I don't know if all of your viewers are keeping up with that conversation, but what you and your other guests just said was that the judge was legally wrong. She's wrong, right? You agree that she's wrong. Your other guest agrees that she's wrong. Your other guest is having trouble even figuring out exactly what she was trying to be right about. I agree. We all agree that the judge was wrong. The difference here is that I think that the judge appointed by Trump, as you pointed out, in his dying days of his presidency, the judge being wrong in such a way that helps inculcate Donald Trump from further legal investigation for an indefinite period of time is bad. For reasons passing my understanding, you don't seem to think that that's bad. You don't seem to think that's a big deal. You don't seem to be mad that this judge is caping for Trump. I do, given that she's demonstrably, legally wrong. Trump has no claim for executive privilege. He's not allowed to raise that claim because he's not the president. If he was allowed to raise that claim, he would have no claim over these documents because they're not his. The remedy that you would have of giving the documents back to their rightful owner cannot exist in this case, because the documents don't belong to Donald Trump. They belong to the people of the United States, and they belong in the National Archives. So there is literally no remedy, no legal remedy that allows Trump to get where he's going, and yet this Trump judge decided to delay the entire investigation for a matter of we don't know how long, based on a legal theory that cannot win.
All right,
now,
so here's why I'm not mad. Why I'm not mad is that, yes, I agree the judge is wrong. I'm not convinced that it's based on corruption, although, I think that, as I mentioned before, there is the potential for the perception of that. The reason I'm not mad is because it's temporary, and because the idea of a special master typically just isn't that big a deal. Right? And this idea that, oh, my goodness, the special master's coming in, the world is ending because a special master's been appointed. I mean, come on, Elie.
We don't know how long this delay will last, and we also don't know if the DOJ is going to accept this, again, clearly legally wrong decision, or if they're going to appeal it to the 11th Circuit, which is also a court full of Republican-appointed judges. And even if they win at the 11th Circuit, we don't know if they will appeal it to the Supreme Court, which is also stacked with Republican-appointed judges. What we do know is that the Supreme Court has taken a very dim view, has made cases where the Biden administration and Democratic administrations have good cases. They've made those cases take a long time, whereas they will rule for Trump in a heartbeat on the shadow docket. So we don't know how long this delay is going to be. But Dan, I would ask you this question. If you're not worried about the delay, that means you think that if this drags out until 2024, 2025, that either Merrick Garland will indict Donald Trump at the point where he's potentially running for president in 2024, or you think that perhaps the President DeSantis will appoint an attorney general that will continue the investigation into these acts of espionage.
This is what you're so good at, Elie.
Because I don't think that.
This is what you're so good at, right? Is creating these worst case scenarios, right? Where this investigation goes into 2025. And now it's up to a non-Merrick Garland to decide. This isn't going to go into 2025, all right? They're going to be able to resolve this in the next few months with regard to the special master. And let me ask you one final question. Do you give the judge any credit, as I do, for calling this exceptional circumstances and admitting that she's applying a different standard because it's the former president?
The judge admitting that she's treating Donald Trump differently than she would treat anybody else, than she would treat you or I, is why I get to call her biased and corrupt. She admitted it in her opinion that Trump is now availing himself to a different standard of justice than that would be applied to anybody else who stole documents from the National Archives.
Well, thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your cable provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.